It is time for the Nebraska Dairy Update. I'm Chad Moyer. Today we're going to talk a little bit about dairy exports, and we will enlist the help of the chair of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. He is a dairy farmer from Missouri. His name is Alex Peterson. Alex, thanks for joining us here today. Just very, very quickly, tell us about your farming operation there in Missouri.
Yeah, we're in North Missouri. We milk about 150 cows. Pro-cross cows, so Holstein, Mount Billiard, Swedish Red crosses on a management-intensive grazing dairy. And it's when it rains, like it has the last few weeks, things have gone really well. Earlier this summer, we had a dry spell, makes it a little challenging, but challenges are what dairy farmers are best suited for.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Sounds like you're making that work and definitely having success doing that. Now, tell me about your interest in dairy exports. How did you kind of make your way to this position of chair of U.S. Dairy Export Council?
Well, just one step at a time. Every meeting there kind of was a new opportunity, but it's very clear that this is one of the critical spots as we drive the value of our dairy products. A lot of the consumers in the world are not in the U.S. 95% of them are outside our borders. So finding ways for our products to reach their mouths is absolutely critical. And it's just been a tremendous opportunity to work on farmers' behalf and support not just those that export, but everybody's milk price is tied to Class 3, Class 4, and Class 3, Class 4, as we know, are really tied to what's going on in the global market.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the dairy checkoff's role in exports because, as we know, we have Midwest Dairy and then we have DMI, Dairy Management Incorporated, managing the dairy checkoff for dairy farmers. But how do these organizations, the dairy checkoff, how do they play a role in exports?
So the checkoff is the primary funder for the U.S. Dairy Export Council. And what the Export Council does is not sell any dairy products. We are pre-competitive. But what we are kind of is, if you think of the Olympics, we're like the U.S. Olympic team. Our job is to make it as easy as possible and give as many tools as possible to the people that actually compete, the people that are selling U.S. dairy products. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to do what they need to do. And that happens on the marketing side. That happens on making connections and doing market intelligence, and that happens on the regulatory side and market access is where we look at, hey, if you want to ship a container of something to Malaysia, what documents do you have to have, certificates do you have to have, and what has to happen for that procedure to go all the way through? And we have technical experts in all of those fields that we're kind of the 911 for making dairy happen.
Okay. So, Alex, I understand the last 3 years, there's been a lot of success in exporting U.S. dairy products. Can you give us some examples of what are some of the things the checkoff has done to, kind of help that along?
Yeah. So, technical training on some things as simple as cheese makers in Mexico using our ingredients to supplement what they do. Mexico's been a tremendous growth engine for U.S. dairy exports, and that's our number one market. And it's our neighbor, so that makes a lot of sense. We're also pushing things like culinary schools. So with checkoff, you want immediate action, so things that are going to affect the balance sheet this month and quarter. Also things in the near term and long term. One of our long-term plays we're putting a few chips on is training up these culinary students in 9 different centers around the world. And as they go into hotels and restaurants, they are, keenly aware of the 1,000 different varieties of cheese that you can get from the U.S. and what you can do with those cheeses. And when they take that to these restaurants, that starts, movement and momentum, and things like that are long plays.
So we said we've had 3 good years. What about 2023 so far? Any thoughts on how things are looking for this year, Alex?
A lot of headwinds this year. Things have kind of aligned against us to a degree, but we've really kind of held strong despite those, with the EU kind of ramping up production for a variety of reasons, and New Zealand kind of having a year that's kind of more on trend line. There is competition out there, but there's plenty of pie to develop for people. So even though we're not going to see the numbers we've seen the last 2 years on exports, the trend line that we're on is a really good one. So just like any other market in agriculture, if you have 2 good years, odds are the next year there's going to be some turbulence and correction. But I think when you look at the big picture in the long run, we are on the trend line we need to be on as far as clawing market share away from our competitors and developing new markets and new products for consumers around the world.
Yep. All right, great. We're kind of at the end of our time here, Alex, but if folks would like to kind of follow along with what the U.S. Dairy Export Council is doing, and again, reading on the importance of exports to the domestic dairy industry, how can they do that?
You can follow on your social media, the U.S. Dairy Export Council, USA Exporter, U.S. Dairy Exporter, and you Google it and you can find it. And they're just tremendous assets and resources. And then ask wherever your milk is going, whoever you're selling it to, whatever end products, ask them how they use USDEC. And I think that's a great way to kind of help us all in the grassroots understand not just what promotion is doing on our behalf and checkoff, but what we're doing internationally to support those products that we produce, and they're finding the homes they need to find.
Great information. Alex Peterson from Missouri. He is a dairy farmer and chair of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. Joins us on today's Nebraska Dairy Update. Chad Moyer reporting.